Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about lead gen versus e-commerce social media marketing agencies, what those clients look like, how the operations of that business differ, which business model I think you should choose depending on how advanced and how far along you are in your agency, and really what to expect from both business models. So guys, if you're new to SMMA or if you've been in SMMA for a while, you will often hear people talk about whether they're a lead gen agency or an e-commerce brand agency. And if you're a complete beginner, what that essentially means is a lead generation agency will be a social media marketing agency, an SMMA, digital marketing agency, whatever you want to call it, that works with service-based businesses, and the ROI on your marketing campaigns is how many leads you bring in for that business. So it might be a dental practice, it might be a dermatologist, it might be a driveway company, a landscaper, even down to car dealerships really. It's anything where, and it's usually the high ticket services, where you don't just go online and purchase it right away. Like you don't go online and purchase Invisalign on a dental practice website. You don't go online and purchase a new kitchen directly on a website. You might do in certain cases, but usually you submit your information for a quote, you submit your information for a callback. That is what a lead gen agency is. You are bringing in more leads, and what I mean by leads, if you're a super beginner, is a phone number, an email address, a name, and some more information for that lead gen business that you're working with to then call and book them in. So that's a lead gen business. For an e-commerce agency, very much like with a lead gen agency, your return on investment, your return on your ad spend was leads. With an e-commerce brand agency, you are trying to bring in sales for that business. So you'll send traffic directly to a clothing brand website, a shoe store, anyone that sells a product online, and that can be anything. That can be it can be high ticket, it can be low ticket. Obviously, we'd recommend it being high ticket, especially if you're a beginner, because it'll be easier for you to make the money. I'd also class kind of info product brands within the e-commerce space, because they are kind of transactions that happen straight away. It's kind of a mixture of the two, because when you work with info products or people that sell digital products online, you're going to have a mixture. You're going to have a mixture of lead gen to fill their sales pipeline and also book them in sales calls, but also you want to do some kind of retargeting campaigns and cold traffic campaigns and warm traffic campaigns to get sales directly online from their website. So it's a mixture of the two. So when people are often starting out, the advice that we always give is, if you're an absolute beginner, you've never run a Facebook ad campaign before, you've never run any kind of digital marketing campaign before, always go with the lead generation business model. So always go for service-based businesses. Pick an industry where your knowledge about it, hopefully you have a little bit of an interest in it, and you target these business owners, you reach out to them, book sales calls with them, and sign them as your clients. And then once you sign them, it's your responsibility to run these campaigns to bring in qualified, high ticket leads for that service, and bring in loads of people inquiring about Invisalign, teeth whitening, or whatever it is for whatever industry that your clients are in. And the reason why we recommend the beginners go for lead gen rather than e-commerce is because it's a lot easier to get results. When you work with a lead gen business, your main job is to bring in leads. Yes, you have to help that client make sure that they convert them, because there's no point you bringing in 200 leads a month and that those leads don't come to fruition, because you're just going to lose that client. So say you're working with a lead gen business that sells products for £2,000, for example, clear aligners for a dentist. If you bring in 100 leads, that's potentially £200,000 or $200,000 worth of revenue for that dental practice. And if you're charging $2,000 a month, it's very easy for them to make a profit on your services. However, if you're working with an e-commerce brand and you're selling products for £60, £80, and the profit margins are 40%, you're going to have to make sure that your strategy is absolutely on point in order for them to make a profit from your agency. And a lot of the time, for those e-commerce brands that sell those lower ticket offers, you're going to need a lot bigger ad spend. And in order for you to kind of show your credibility enough to get that ad spend, and for them to trust you with that ad spend, because it can go up to $5,000-$10,000 a day in ad spend, it's going to be difficult for you to kind of gain their trust and responsibility for that type of project if you're an absolute beginner. Whereas for a dentist to trust you with a $2,000 retainer to bring in 100 leads a month that all could potentially convert to £2,000 to £3,000, it's a lot, there's a lot less risk there, which is why we ask all beginners to go after lead gen businesses. And even to this day, probably 70% of the clients we work with are still lead gen, and that's because the strategies that we've got in place for our agency and what we have in the academy work so well. It's very easy to get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 leads every single day for an extremely low ad spend. Like, you could literally get that in for probably $500 to $750 a month. So when you kind of extrapolate that out and see what that turns into with a 20% conversion rate of those leads, these lead gen businesses can make fucking, a lot of money from our services, and therefore that keeps them long term. And as you'll know, when you're a beginner agency, keeping that cash flow coming into your business while you're getting the business off the ground is so crucial. So if you can get 3 or 4 lead gen clients that you keep for a year plus, this advice isn't really anywhere else on YouTube, because not many people focus on keeping clients long term, whereas Tom and I do, and all of the knowledge and information on this channel is to help you do the same. So if you in the beginning can find 5 lead gen clients that you do an excellent job for that keep for a year, that's like 5 or 6K coming into your agency every single month, while you can focus on other parts of the business, in comparison to signing 3 or 4 e-commerce brands where you're under huge and tremendous amounts of pressure in order to get them an ROI, because it's so difficult, because you might not have the strategy in place yet. It's a more tough strategy. Retargeting is going to be a bigger issue with e-commerce brands than lead gen clients. So the stress levels and the amount of time spent on an e-commerce client is a lot greater than a lead gen client, which is going to benefit you massively in the beginning when you go after lead gen clients. And you might be thinking, well, why would anyone ever go after e-commerce clients then, Harry? And the reason why people kind of transition once they've got the experience into e-commerce clients is because they've got bigger budgets, you can make more money from them, especially if you negotiate kind of a 3%, 1.5 to 3%, up to 10% I've seen of revenue share of the results you bring back in. It can be incredibly lucrative to have e-commerce clients on your books. Not only that, it's also nice as your agency grows to kind of diversify the types of clients that you work with. And the reason why I say this is during COVID, we lost a lot of clients. And the reason we lost a lot of clients and it affected our business kind of for a month or two quite negatively, but then after that month we got things in order, it affected us really positively, was because we were working with the same niche. And this video isn't about niches, but to touch on it very briefly. In the beginning, the same way in the beginning we say focus on lead gen, the same way we say, right, pick a niche in the very beginning, because that's going to help you build your lead lists of the same industry. It's going to help you leverage client results of the same industry. For example, if you're working with a dentist and you get them good results, those dental results are going to stand on a higher pedestal when you show them to other dentists, rather than if you show dental results to a landscaper, because they're in the same industry and they can see, right, you've literally done the same project, so I'm going to work with you. Which is why we say choosing a niche in the beginning is so crucial. That is so you can leverage those results. It makes your outreach easier, and it just makes everything more streamlined because you only have to worry about one industry. However, as your agency grows, you're going to get a lot of referrals from, hopefully if you do a good job, you're going to get a lot of referrals from those clients, and those referrals aren't always going to be dental practices. Usually it will start quite close to the industry you're working with. For example, when we first started, I only worked with cosmetic practices, and the first few referrals I got was a hair transplant surgeon, a dermatologist. So my niche, my industries started to grow reasonably close to that initial niche that I was working with. But as it grew on, like a year later, I was now getting referrals to a car dealership. I was getting referrals to a laundrette. I was getting these types of referrals. And as my agency grew and I got more and more confident in my strategy, I started to take those clients on as well. So as your agency grows, I think it's very silly to just stick to one niche. Why would you turn away 10 clients that want to pay you $1,500 a month just because they're not in that initial niche that you worked with? It doesn't make any sense, because the strategy, any lead gen strategy, any e-commerce strategy is the same. You just need to apply it to the industry you're in and apply it to that particular brand. So going back to how you transition to an e-commerce agency, the same way you transition your niches. As your agency grows, you get more and more opportunities with more corporate e-commerce brands, or even less corporate e-commerce brands, even local kind of shoe shops, local, any kind of business that sells products online. They potentially could be a client of yours. And once you've got that strategy that you're more comfortable with, you're going to be in a better position to take on those e-commerce clients and benefit from that, lucrative part of SMMA. However, in the beginning, like I say, to focus on getting a nice stream of income coming in every month, you want to try and find 5 or 6 lead gen businesses, ideally in the same niche if you can, because it's going to make your job a lot easier, that you can get good results for long term. You can almost, and I hate the word automation, but you can essentially get some kind of automation up where you're not spending a lot of time on those projects where the funnel's set up, that converts because you've done testing. So after the 3-month stage, all you really need to do is manage the ads and the client communication and potentially some email marketing. Then you're that's where not passive income, because it's never going to be passive income, but you can make good money off those 5 or 6 clients that you've got, that you keep long term and they're happy, to then start exploring their e-commerce brands. That kind of explains the difference between lead gen and e-commerce. I think what a lot of people make the mistake with is they will dive straight into an e-commerce brand client as their very first client, and I see it all the time. They say, Harry, I'm going to go with clothing brands as my niche. And like I say throughout this video, I really do recommend not doing that. Go with lead gen. When you go straight into e-commerce, it's going to be so difficult. The strategy is very different to get results for e-commerce, and there's also a greater barrier to entry, and you're going to run into bigger roadblocks. For example, when you work with an e-commerce brand, the strategy shifts slightly. For example, when you work with an e-commerce brand, there's going to be a bigger and more intense importance on content creation, especially for certain pockets of e-commerce. It's going to be so essential that you have lots of content being produced. If you're working with a supplement brand, you're going to need lots of photography ongoing. If you're working with a clothing brand, you're going to need loads of user-generated content. You're going to need to work with influencers, micro-influencers. You're going to have to work with lots more people, and your strategy is a lot more broad. Whereas with a lead gen business, you can literally get leads flying through the door immediately from literally on day one of launching ads, using stock images, just a sales funnel, email marketing, and ads. Whereas e-commerce is not like that. You can't use the stock images like you can for a dentist, your stock images like you can for a kitchen fitter. Yes, content is going to help those lead gen brands. However, with e-commerce, it's practically essential that you have that kind of infrastructure, support, network, and contacts in place in order to pull the trigger and pull levers when you need in order to get results when they're not coming in. It's just going to make your life a lot more difficult. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Our previous video was on my opinion on AI versus sales jobs, my opinion on how people are replacing client communications with AI, with ChatGPT, and really what to look out for in terms of all of these new AI softwares that are appearing on the market on TikTok and on YouTube. Give it a watch, it's a super useful video. It'll kind of put to bed a lot of the worries that are around the AI space before. I know I've made a previous video on it, but this kind of talks about it in a different light. But yeah, give that video a watch. Make sure you subscribe because we're back posting every single day. If you're interested in any digital marketing mentorship, click the link in the description. Check out the Digital Culture Academy. There's a 23-minute video on there where we talk about everything that's included in the mentorship. To summarize it very briefly, you go through the video course with all of the modules, over 15 hours of content, documents, spreadsheets, contracts, everything there is to scale your business. And then after that, you fall into the mentorship with Tom and I. We have bi-weekly calls on Zoom. We have the one-to-one chat support with Tom and I, where we literally can answer any of your questions 24/7, and we're seeing a fucking unbelievable amount of success coming from these academy students. If you're not ready to enroll, go to my Instagram page, Harry_SMMA, and there are countless videos on there of the literal transformations of people starting from absolutely zero, struggling to even book a meeting, let alone sign a client, to now making over $10,000 a month for their uni dorm room. So there's some fucking incredible people coming out of the academy, and yeah, click the link in the description, watch the video, and just ask any questions you have at all. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you tomorrow at 9 AM.